How many of you started this new year with a resolution? Maybe you wanted to get more physically fit. Maybe you want to have a more healthy diet. And how many of you have given up by now? I started last year with a resolution. I wanted to get more physically fit. I started full of hope with this great exercise plan and the smartwatch, you all know, to track your progress. Yeah, by the end of January, I had already given up and fallen back in my normal routines. Today, I want to show you how New Year's resolutions are not that different from sustainability goals of companies. Both are about goal setting. Both follow the same process. In theory, though. So let's walk through the steps and how they work in theory. It starts with the issue. There are signals that there is an issue. For example, you're moving house, you're lifting heavy boxes, and your back gives out. Ow. That back pain is a signal. There is something wrong with my back. It's not meeting my expectations. So you set yourself a mission, right? Strengthen your back muscles. And you give yourself a deadline. By the end of the year, I will be free of back pain. Okay. Then comes input, planning and resources. You have to translate that mission into a clear exercise plan, and you have to buy some resources, for example, a membership of your gym. That also explains why in January the gym membership sales are going through the roof, right? Everybody starts good. Then after planning and resources, you need to act. You start new habits, you change your existing routines. And of course, make space in your busy schedule for these exercises, okay? To ensure that you actually achieve your mission, you need to monitor, you need to assess. You can assess output, how many times you went to the gym. You can assess outcome, is your physical condition improving? But also, of course, you can measure impact. Are you actually experiencing less back pain? So this is how it works in theory. But how does it work for companies? Well, the same way. They also receive signals every day that there is issues with their environmental impact or their social impact. Maybe it's poor working conditions. Maybe it's CO2 emissions that are rising. Maybe it's the environmental damage their pesticides are causing, or the discrimination on the work floor. And they have to receive those signals and decide, this is an issue, we want to make a mission, put input in, act upon, and then measure. So in theory it's clear, but in practice we often fail. As I said, New Year's resolutions often do not make it to the end of the first month. And also sustainability goals are not always becoming reality. So where does it go wrong? Well, bad news, in every step it can go wrong. What you see is that to achieve a mission, the links of this chain need to be connected. And we as business scholars, when it doesn't connect, we refer to it as decoupling. The chain has decoupled. And so today I want to show you the many ways in which the chain can be decoupled. We start with the issue. Even in the beginning, it can go wrong because signals can be missed. Your back gave out, remember? But you dismiss it. That's just a one-time event. Those boxes was just too heavy. A few weeks later, however, your back gives out again. Oh, maybe it was a structural issue that shouldn't have been dismissed. Companies also pick up these signals, and they have communication channels to do so, inside their organization, but also externally, because their impact goes beyond the boundaries of their organization. They impact consumers, other businesses, neighboring communities, the general public. So they need those communication channels to pick up the signals. But even if the signals are picked up, the issue might still be missed. Let's say an employee reports that there was an unsafe situation on the work floor. But the situation is dismissed. Just one incident. It's fine. It is not recorded in any system. And so it can happen again, and again, and again. And nobody reports it. So the issue itself is not detected. Then finally, if it is reported and it is detected, the company needs to decide, are they responsible to solve the issue? Is this situation caused by employees that are just being reckless and do not stick to procedures? Or is it actually caused by the unrealistic planning on the work floor and the time pressure that causes employees to skip safety measures? Also with a mission it can fail. You can stop. Because you can detect an issue, but it doesn't mean that it always is turned into a mission. You'll have back pain issues, but there's also other issues in your life. Maybe you need to take care of your chronically ill father. Maybe your kid has issues at school. Maybe you had that a very important work deadline. These are prioritized over your back pain issues. Okay? Others say it's small. Maybe you do set a mission, but that mission is very general. I will improve my physical condition in the next few months. Yeah, okay, but which aspect? And by when? But finally, the mission might not match the issue. I will improve my arm strength. Yeah, but that won't reduce your back pain, will it? Companies also need to decide which issues are important to set into a mission. How do they do that? Well, they track how many signals do we receive. Is the issue severe? But also the affected stakeholder, the affected person, is that important to our company? For example, if one consumer complains about a product quality, it will likely not lead to redesign of a product. However, if the product design leads to the death of multiple consumers, then it probably becomes a mission, doesn't it, to change that. But then if that mission is said, Product X will be redesigned, okay, but does that mean, how do you measure success of that mission, and by when? Finally, when it comes to a mission, a company has another complexity, namely its own organization. One department can detect an issue, but another department might need to act. The R&D team discovers that in their engineering hiring, all female applicants are always rejected. That might signal an issue. But the HR department is probably the one that needs to pick up, investigate if this issue is structural and what are the causes. And then the causes, that investigation, it shows that it's actually the recruitment algorithm that is used that is causing the discrimination. So the IT department gets the mission. You need to change the algorithm. But the investigation can also show that it's actually a structural issue with the culture of the company. In general in the company, females are seen as less than males. And then who gets the mission? Gets to go higher up. Top management needs to then get a mission to change the culture of the company. That's not easy. If the mission doesn't end up on the right desk of the right department or the right person, the issue will not be solved. So, and now we're only at issue and mission. Like right now, we're talking about the big thing, the walk, as we say it. Putting the money where the mouth is, right? You want it to be free of back pay at the end of the year. So, you pay a membership for your local gym. And the gym offers you personal trainers. But those sessions are expensive, right? So you decide, okay, I'll do it on my own. I'll design my own exercise plan. Oh, and next to that, you also buy this exercise machine for at home, so you can do exercises at home. It is expensive, but the reviews online are great. So how does this sound like? Where does the decoupling come in? Well, first of all, it always shows the plans you have, the exercise plans, are not that well informed. You're no expert. The exercises are way too hard and you get an injury within a week. and then it's not really possible for you to integrate it in your routines. You plan to do these exercises twice a week, but there's always something more important. Your best friend's birthday, your daughter's soccer practice, that big pile of laundry right there. Oh, and the finale of your your favorite show, right? Very important. So that exercise plan, I can tell you, is a bit less effective if it's only done once a month. And then that tech fix, that big, nice machine you bought, turned out to be a total scam. Breaks down within 2 weeks. The reviews online will probably be fabricated, right?
It's
So how does this work for companies? Similar way, again. Let's take a company, top management that just found out that their CO2 emissions are the biggest in their industry. What is the cause? Well, the energy use of their production and their unsustainable product design. Sure. So they set their own mission. Within the next 5 years, we will reduce our CO2 emissions with 20%. Great mission. Then the input. What are they using for that? First, their product teams are asked to create a plan for each of their product lines to reduce the CO2 emissions. And they do get like a software to calculate that CO2 footprint. Well, that sounds easy. And the company decides to invest in this new technology that will reduce the energy use of their production line significantly. That's the promise. Here as well, there's the decoupling happening. The teams that are designing the plans to redesign their products, do they actually have the expertise? Do they know what sustainable product design is? And do they have training in actually using the software? Routines. Also in companies, not easy to change. Product design, there are always criteria for a new product. Is CO2 footprint included in that criteria? And is it allowed to be prioritized? Or is price still more important? Taste, appearance? Oh yeah, and then CO2 footprint. And finally, when it comes to evaluation, it's not just about the product, right? It's also performance evaluation. In a company, every department is evaluated by top management. And they also have criteria. And if these teams are only evaluated on product sales and not on their CO2 footprint, do you think they will change their routines? Finally, that big, nice, new technology, how realistic are those promises really? So we have to come at the end, and so we need to assess whether our activities and the input we provided are actually causing the results that we needed. Are we achieving our mission? Back pain issues, right? End of the year, you look back and you still have back pain issues. You haven't had 1 week without back pain. You failed your mission, but that indicator only says that you failed your mission, but not why. Do you have any other data? Well, you didn't collect any output data, like how many times you went to the gym or how many times you did your exercises. Did you collect any outcome data? Did your muscle mass increase, or did you just were able to lift more weight? And in between measurements, throughout the year, did you check whether there were periods that you didn't have any back pain? Without that data, there's no way of telling whether you have why you have achieved your mission or not have achieved the mission. What is the reason for your failure? We return to this company with this CO2 emission reduction mission, right? And so a clear mission, okay, we skip to year 5, the final year, and the numbers are in. The top management gets told that they're nowhere near that 20% reduction. Outrage. How is this possible? We put in so much effort, right? Well, it's hard to tell what the reason is. The teams did measure their progress, but each of the teams chose a different indicator. They said, for example, Some talked the average CO2 footprint of their whole portfolio. Others just measured how many products they redesigned. There is no way of comparing the teams. Who did better? Who was more successful? And then over time, after 1-2 years, most teams stopped measuring. Why? Because in their performance evaluation by the top management, the criteria weren't changed. They were still judged only on their product sales. And why would you record a number if nobody ever asked for it or uses it? Oh, wait, we got one thing. We also bought this new technology, right? That was going to reduce, the energy use of the production, right? Well, the engineers tried really, really, really hard. It was 2% reduction was achieved. Oh, that's not what was promised. The management was told in year 2, but they didn't really do anything with that information. They didn't invest in new technology. They didn't change their plans. They even changed their mission. It was like, okay, oh, that didn't work. Just let's focus on the rest. Yeah. So when you invest in new technology, it's always experimentation, right? It's always trial and error. But that also means that you always need a backup plan when it fails. So there are many ways in which a mission can fail. And there are many causes of decoupling. Some can be predicted and thus be prevented. Others cannot be predicted. But therefore we should monitor and respond to the results that we have. But that ends up with the last question. How do we respond to a company that fails? Because if you fail your resolution, that impacts the life of only you, your life. But if a company fails their mission, it can impact the lives of thousands, if not millions of people. They carry a large responsibility. And so, when they fail, do we shame them? Boycott? Well, let's go back to that New Year's resolution. Do you share your resolutions on social media? Do you share your failure on social media? And why not? You're afraid of the negative responses. And what if you get those negative responses? Would you be more or less inclined to share your resolutions next time? Companies also run the risk of reputation damage every time they share a failure. We need them to share their failures, because otherwise we continue to make the same mistake again. And we cannot build good solutions together if we don't know about those failures. So, should we then applaud every failed mission? No. We should stay vigilant. We should ask, why did they fail? How they are aiming to correct it? And also, do they need help? Let's leave the shaming and boycotting for the companies that do not have missions, that do not share their performance. In other words, let's support the ones who try and fail and condemn the ones that do not even try.